Meanwhile, rapper Kanye West has apologized to the Jewish community for the anti-Semitic remarks he made last year.
I'm off my meds for 5 months now, and I got a spiritual connection. I'm here to take over. Get used to it.
Your personality was not like this a few years ago.
It's a calling by the universe.
We can talk about that later, but...
It ain't no but.
And it hurt everybody around you. They just not up enough to tell you.
Did you have an effect on my mental health?
Yes, and I love you.
It's very easy to slip and all this up.
Never tell me I'm gonna wake up one day and have nothing.
What happened to Kanye West? His latest controversy explained. It didn't happen all at once. At first, it was just headlines, comments that felt off, interviews that turned uncomfortable, moments people weren't sure how to react to.
Morally, you just said,
I have to finish the sentence. It matters to us and you. It doesn't matter what the internet...
But over time, those moments started stacking up, and the tone shifted, because this isn't just about controversy anymore. It's about one of the most influential artists of his generation slowly becoming defined by something else entirely. Fans are confused. Critics are louder than ever.
Well, just days after packing SoFi Stadium for 2 sold-out shows, the rapper known as Ye is being blocked from entering the United Kingdom.
And even people who once supported him are starting to step back. So what actually happened? How did things reach this point? And why does it feel like it keeps getting worse? To understand that, you have to look at everything that led here. To understand what's happening now, you have to rewind.
Mama ain't here. My mama was sacrificed.
Me too.
You understand?
Yeah, I'm appreciative.
Michael Jordan, what about him? His daddy, right? Bill Cosby, his son, right? Dr. Dre, his son. You know, out in Hollywood, a lot of people come up missing. Feels like it might be a lot of that in order to control, traumatize.
Because none of this came out of nowhere. For years, Kanye West wasn't just a successful artist. He was shaping culture. From early albums like The College Dropout to My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, his influence went beyond music.
Drake has a rich baby daddy named Lucien and Universal. He's like, man, my daddy got it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow. My daddy controlled the spins. My daddy got the...
He was pushing boundaries in fashion, redefining what a hip-hop artist could be, and building a brand that blended creativity with controversy. And that last part, controversy, was always there. Even early in his career, Kanye had moments that sparked backlash. Award show interruptions, outspoken interviews, bold statements that didn't always land well. But at the time, those moments were often framed as part of his persona. Unfiltered, unpredictable, but undeniably talented. People didn't turn away. If anything, it added to the myth. Because behind the headlines, the work kept delivering. Albums were critically acclaimed. Projects were ambitious.
Work is still not a real big positive thing.
You know, feeling is a crime at this point. Breathing is a crime at this point. Literally, it's like breathing is a crime.
Right.
And his ability to stay ahead of trends made people willing to overlook behavior that might have ended someone else's career. But over time, something began to shift. The controversies became more frequent and more intense. Instead of isolated incidents, they started forming a pattern. Public statements that sparked outrage, interviews that raised concern, social media posts that blurred the line between expression and escalation, and the response started changing too. Where audiences once debated whether he was misunderstood, now more people were questioning whether things had gone too far. A major turning point came as his personal life became increasingly public.
1 month and 2 months and 3 months, we talked about her not having this child. She had the pills in her hand. Do people know these pills where you take the pills and if you take it, it's a wrap. The baby's gone. And I called my wife. And she said, we're gonna have this baby. I said, we're gonna have this child.
His relationship with Kim Kardashian brought even more attention, and when that relationship ended, the fallout didn't stay private. It unfolded in real time. Posts, comments, public reactions. Everything became part of a larger narrative that millions of people were watching closely. And unlike earlier moments in his career, this wasn't just about art or opinion anymore. It felt at the same time, His behavior in interviews and appearances became harder to predict. Conversations would shift direction suddenly. Statements would spark immediate backlash. And what might have once been seen as provocative started being described as concerning. This is where perception began to change in a serious way, because in the public eye, there's a difference between being controversial and being difficult to understand, and Kanye was starting to cross that line. Then came the statements that pushed things even further.
Cause I was drugged the out, bro. I was drugged out. I was on opioids. 2 days after I got off of opioids, and I was addicted to opioids, I'm in the hospital, right? I'm taking hey, everyone listen to this, please. 2 days before I was in the hospital, I was on opioids. I was addicted to opioids.
Comments that were widely criticized, condemned by major figures, and quickly amplified across media platforms. The reaction was immediate and much stronger than anything he had faced before. Brands began distancing themselves. Business partnerships, some of the most valuable ones tied to his name, started collapsing. Deals that had taken years to build were suddenly being cut off. This wasn't just reputational anymore, it was financial, structural, career-defining, and it happened fast. The same boldness that once helped him stand out was now creating consequences that couldn't be controlled.
Kanye did recently issue an apology for his anti-Semitic tirades, and that apology was in Hebrew. Most people weren't buying what he was selling.
And for the first time, it felt like the fallout wasn't something that would simply pass. What made it even more complicated was the divide in public reaction. Some people defended him, arguing that he was being misunderstood or unfairly targeted. Others felt that the line had been crossed in a way that couldn't be ignored. That divide only made the situation more intense, because now it wasn't just about what he said or did, it was about how people interpreted it. And once a situation reaches that point, it becomes much harder to contain. By this stage, the narrative around Kanye wasn't just about creativity or influence anymore.
When you're acting in love, you're like a drop of water and you have the ocean as your army. When you act in fear, it's just you and your money. Now you could take your money and put it in Bitcoin, put a credit form, put it in cash, or all your cash, and then stand up to the ocean. Who's gonna win?
It had shifted, and whatever was coming next was going to define how people saw him moving forward. By the time the most recent wave of controversy hit, the situation had already changed in a fundamental way. This wasn't just another headline people would debate for a few days and move on from. The response was faster, sharper, and far more decisive than anything he had faced before. Statements he made publicly were widely condemned.
We definitely are dealing with racism, but I want to push future concepts. You know, now I'm giving you two streams of consciousness in one. I want to talk about my wife. I also want to talk about Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill.
We're following you. We're following it all. You set it up good. Okay.
That was the moment that I wanted to use Bitcoin, and I saw Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill.
Not just by critics or media outlets, but by major figures across entertainment, business, and politics. And this time, the consequences weren't limited to public opinion. They were immediate and structural. Major brands that had once been closely tied to his identity began to cut ties. Partnerships that helped define his influence in fashion and business were suddenly terminated. Deals that had taken years to build disappeared in a matter of days. What made this moment different was how unified the response felt. In earlier controversies, there had always been a sense of division, some defending him, others criticizing him, but the overall system around him remained intact.
Working on home designs and looking at references from 3,000 years ago and reading the Old Testament at the same time, so it's like a soundtrack.
This time, that system started to break apart, and once that happens, rebuilding becomes much harder. At the same time, his public appearances and statements didn't slow down in a way that might have stabilized the situation. Instead, they often added more uncertainty. Interviews, posts, and appearances continued to generate reactions, sometimes escalating conversations rather than calming them. This created a cycle. The more he spoke, the more attention followed. The more attention followed, the more intense the reactions became. And in today's media environment, that cycle moves fast. What's particularly complex about this situation
co-parenting, it's really hard, you know? And like,
you're not co-parenting with the...
is that it sits at the intersection of multiple things at once: art, identity, public responsibility, and mental health discussions. Some observers frame his actions as deliberate provocation. Others interpret them as signs of something deeper and more concerning. But regardless of interpretation, the impact has been real. His public image has shifted dramatically. For many people, the conversation is no longer about his music.
In my career, my life, my public well-standing at risk when I talk to y'all like this. This is a moment in the matrix.
Or his influence on culture. It's about the controversy itself. And when that becomes the dominant narrative, it changes how everything else is perceived. New projects get evaluated differently. Public appearances are watched more closely. Even silence is interpreted as part of the story. And perhaps the most defining aspect of this moment is uncertainty. There isn't a clear resolution. No single event that closes the chapter or resets the narrative. Instead, there's a sense that things are still unfolding, still evolving in real time. And that makes it harder to predict what comes next. Could there be a shift back toward creative focus? A period of reflection and recalibration? Or will the controversies continue to shape the conversation moving forward?
Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
That question doesn't have a simple answer, because situations like this don't resolve overnight. They change gradually, influenced by decisions, responses, and time itself. What is clear, though, is that this moment represents a turning point, not just in how the public sees him, but in how his legacy is being defined. For years, his name was almost automatically associated with innovation, influence, and creative risk-taking. Now, it's tied to a more complicated narrative, one that includes both impact and controversy in equal measure. And once that shift happens, it doesn't easily reverse, which brings us back to the central question: what happened to Kanye West? The answer isn't one moment, one decision, or one headline. It's a progression, a series of events that built on each other over time, gradually changing both perception and reality. And as of now, that story is still being written. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really going on beneath the headlines, make sure you like the video, share it with someone who's been following this story, and subscribe for more deep, real explanations like this. Because sometimes the story everyone is talking about isn't the one most people actually understand.